All right, guys, welcome back. Stars Podcast. I am Ron Jordan.
Aaron Diaz.
Aaron Diaz, and a special guest today joining us via Zoom is
Joe Steele.
Joe Steele, amateur bodybuilder, joining us today. First off, I wanted to thank, it's Mother's Day, so we got to thank our moms out there. Appreciate you more than you'll probably ever know or will ever tell you.
Right.
But
Absolutely.
none of us are here without them, and that's really the reality. So if you haven't gotten a card yet, get a damn card, write something to them, give them a hug. If they're not around, make sure that you're doing something in their memory today. But that aside, wanted to kind of jump right into it, Joe. And I found your Instagram account, and I'm scrolling through, and I'm like, who's the big Jack guy right here? Because you put out a lot of stuff for free. A lot of the stuff that you do is, it's all workout routine related, or, your donuts and deadlifts apparel.
Right.
So maybe kind of give me an idea as to how long you've been bodybuilding, and we'll jump off from there.
So I really haven't been bodybuilding for all that long. I would say 3 years, all in all. It really kind of spawned off of powerlifting, where I sort of left powerlifting due to injury reasons, things like that. But as far as like the free content and stuff goes, that actually kind of came from my experiences with coaches in the past, and seeing how certain coaches were just genuinely ripping people off, doing cookie cutter programs, things like that, stuff that you can just find on the internet for free. And they were charging astronomical amounts of money for what you could essentially get for free. So this was kind of my, I don't know if you want to say anarchical pushback on that. Okay. I'm going to put some good stuff out for free. And there you go. So, and it's fun to create content. And honestly, man, to see people like DM me with responses, that whatever I put out there is really helping them. That's like really all the payment that I need.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw, so you daylight as a UPS driver as well.
Yep. Yeah, that's my full-time job. Yep.
Yeah, you guys are slammed right now, huh?
It's insane. I actually put a story out the other day comparing the number of routes that we put out during Christmas, during peak day. And we actually had one additional route out just the other day that I was actually on vacation this week, and I went in and like basically volunteered to work because I know how bad it is. It's horrible right now.
I saw your story, and I was trying to explain that to my daughter. Like right now, because everybody's home, everybody's ordering online, so it's like Christmas all the time.
Yep.
With the amount of deliveries that are coming through there.
Yeah.
Well, there's really no choice but to order online. I mean, you can't like go into the stores. I mean, I went and got my pair of shoes where I would normally go into the store to pick up a pair of shoes, but I had to get them online.
Right. And it's any and everything. And like, I know they always joke about the toilet paper, but people are literally ordering 4 rolls of toilet paper next day air. They're paying $40, $50 to ship 4 rolls of toilet paper. It's just crazy, but that's just what people are doing right now.
Yeah, sitting on the toilet, be like, can't get off. I need that. Need that next aid.
Seriously, how much toilet paper is actually getting used in some of these people's houses? Because really, hey, I got four kids running around inside this house. I don't burn through as much toilet paper as some of these people. Like, really.
Right. And I mean, there is, the shower. It's an option. Like, if you're out, you're not gonna die.
Yeah, cloth diapers. You remember those?
Baby wipes are a thing too. Like.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the flushable wipes. I couldn't imagine. I was thinking about this. I was talking to my wife about this the other day. Was like, I wonder what the septic systems are like right now too. With the transition, everybody is home and using all types of stuff and cooking at home and dumping shit down the drain. Like, I wonder if it's worse now than if everybody's at work.
The septic businesses might be a little overwhelmed after all is said and done.
yeah. It's one thing that I was just kind of like This is a weird thing to
Hey.
think about, but hey.
Like the funny thing is, here we are talking to Joe the Animal Steel, right?
Yeah.
about powerlifting, and our take is talking about toilet paper. Like
Rabbit holes, man. Rabbit holes.
Listen, I get interested in things. Yeah. All right, so I guess back up. You're right, Aaron. Let's back up a second. So you're powerlifting.
Yep.
Where do you powerlift at? Were you competitive in it?
Yeah. Yep.
Where did that all start from?
So basically, lifting in general for me started around the year 2000. So it was kind of as a joke because my younger brother started to get bigger than me. And I didn't want him to get bigger than me. He was my young brother.
Yeah.
So I started lifting with him at this gym. And we started lifting with this crew where they were kind of playing around with doing a meet. So I did a bench-only meet in 2006 and did okay for my weight class. And they're like, hey, maybe you want to toss this around. So I started powerlifting. And from there, I just got stronger and stronger and stronger. And I competed for about 10 years. And towards the end of that, I started to get injury after injury after injury as I was prepping for each meet. And they were becoming more significant injuries. And I was getting more and more time off of work. I'm like, man, I can't push it this hard anymore. So
yeah,
I transitioned over to bodybuilding, and that's basically
where you're at now. So whenever you went to that first meet, what led up to that meet? What were the guys talking about that made you want to do something like that? Other than you wanted to be stronger, obviously.
What's really funny is the guys that were talking all this crap about doing this meet were the guys that backed out the last minute right before it. I was the only guy. I went into this meet, had no idea what I was doing. Funny story, little offshoot of this story. I had no idea like how meets were run. I knew you needed to wear a singlet. Well, with this particular federation, you couldn't wear like boxers under your singlet.
Okay.
So the ref caught it. The ref was like, are you wearing boxers? And I'm like, yeah, I wear boxer briefs. He's like, no. It's tighty whities or nothing at all. And I'm like,
cutthroat.
I have to go with no underwear under a white singlet.
Oh,
lay down on a bench. You guys know how that goes.
Yeah.
So
giblets everywhere.
Full frontal.
That was my first meet. So yeah, went into that. No friends. No nothing. Just in I think it was like a college gymnasium or something.
Okay.
So yeah, I did that, and then I really fell in love with the sport, and then just kind of went with it.
How much did you bench that day? You said that was something that.
So I was competing in the 165 class, and what was funny was whenever I went to weigh-ins, I was only 154 pounds.
Oh, wow.
and the guy was like, well, why don't you just go to the 148 class? Like, just take your clothes off and go to the 148s. I purposely kept my boots on and all my clothes because I was too embarrassed to be 148 pounds.
Oh, okay.
So I weighed in fully clothed with boots on. And he's like, okay, but like you have more of an advantage at a lighter, okay.
Right.
Whatever. But yeah, I was 154 and I think I benched like 310 or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
How long were you prepping for this?
I had no idea what I was doing. I was just benching, doing singles and just going in. So I sort of had like a natural knack for it.
Yeah.
So I just kind of went in there and was like, I don't know what's going on. And
did you lift in high school? Did you play sports? Like where does that basis come from?
That's the really funny part because like in high school, I really didn't do anything. I was on the rifle team. Like I was like the nerd on the rifle team, you know?
Okay.
And yeah, I played no team sports. I was like that punk rock metal kid that rode my bike, and I wanted no part of team sports.
Got it.
And I got out and I was like, I really like lifting weights.
Yeah. It's a good outlet then.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and the metal music. I mean, if you go in any gym, that's what you're listening to.
Yeah.
Fired up.
Yeah, I was like, this is my spot, man.
Yeah, probably that's your peak.
I like Marvin Gaye. I didn't. That's what I
While
like
you're
to.
while you're listening,
Whatever works for you, man.
yeah, he gets all fired up to some somber music.
I listen to a lot of 80s music, even Depeche Mode in the gym. It's all over the place. So,
So after that first event, then you're like, hey, I did pretty good. Did you win anything
Yep.
that day?
Yeah, I won my weight class. I won, I think, best overall lifter too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're underweight. You're in a higher weight class. Do you stick at that weight for a while, or do
I was
you jump
at,
right back into another competition?
I think I did 165 for one more meet, and then I went to 181s for maybe 4 or 5 meets after that, and then I eventually ended up in the 198 class.
So at these meets,
Are you still weighing the same? Are you still weighing the same?
Right now I'm about 220 pounds now, so no.
No. So like when you started to jump up, did you stay at that 154?
No.
Okay.
I started to jump up and then figure out, okay, geez, I need to be a little bit higher weight and then cut, because that's what I need to do. I can't be underweight and work towards my maximum weight. I need to be above. So I wanted to start to actually be competitive, because I'm like, maybe I can do something with this.
So when you started that weight cutting, was that just did you have a coach that was helping you weight cut, or you just kind of, hey, I'm going to get up to this level and then I'm not going to eat for a week?
I didn't have a coach for a while. It was, probably, I would say half of the 10 years that I competed, I didn't have a coach. And then I got to a point where guys are like, maybe you should look at somebody that's like a pro, that's a coach, to maybe take you to that like next level.
Yeah. So who did that end up being for you?
My first coach, and still one of my best friends to this day, his name's Micah Marino. Fantastic 181 pound lifter. I think he had an 800 pound deadlift at 181.
Oh,
yeah, just crazy strong, super strong.
That's that part's amazing to me. Is it? And this is just curiosity piquing in me. So you have the muscle and everything like that, but I mean, your bone structure itself, does your bone density increase as you lift all these years? Is that proven? I'm just asking.
From what I understand, putting those heavy loads on, your bones do tend to become more dense.
Yeah, I would assume so. Your frame would have to get denser to support all of that weight, especially at a 181 class, putting 800 pounds on you.
Yeah, and it has a lot to do with your nervous system and everything else too. Like, I noticed a huge difference from when I transitioned from from powerlifting to bodybuilding, that for me, in order for me to even touch that weight, even though I've touched it a million times before, it feels like a house now. Okay. It's just that nervous system, like the muscle's there, the bones are still there, but the nervous system just is not ready for that type of load. How do
you train the nervous system?
It's just repetitive over and over again. So let's just say let's say you're trying to squat 500 pounds and you just keep working up to that weight. Your body just kind of gets used to feeling that load, and it gets to a certain point, and then you can do things with, chains and bands where you're overloading. So where you maybe load 530 pounds on when you step out of the rack, but then the chains, once you guys know how chains work, it gets lighter towards the bottom of the lift. So you can actually lift that 530 pounds, see what it feels like on your back, squat.
Okay.
And then, you're basically overloading. Yeah, it's pretty much just overloading.
So whenever I've heard this thing where, so the muscles can only fire at, I don't know, let's say 75%. And power lifters they're able to overcome that by continuously stressing the body. And I can't remember what that receptor is called, but it's part of your physiology. It's just one of those, like, whenever you hear about people being able to lift cars, whenever that adrenaline dump comes, maybe you can help me out. What is that whenever you have that adrenaline, not the adrenaline dump itself, but like that mechanism?
It's that fight or flight mode where.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, most powerlifters they do train with heavy weights, but a lot of them do train for speed too. So
weird.
the amount of speed that you can push a weight does translate into overall strength. If that makes sense.
No, it absolutely makes sense. So how do you do that in your training routine then? I mean, you just try and pump out as many benches as possible. You try and explode up on a squat.
Well, with powerlifting, it is definitely different. So some weeks you will have a maximum training where you're squatting a super heavy weight for 2 or 3 reps. And then maybe the next week you might be doing what they call like dynamic work, where you're really just blasting 5 reps as fast as you possibly can. And you sort of progressively do the same thing. You want to try to keep the same speed, maybe increase the weight just a little bit the next time, and see if you can keep pushing that weight that fast. It's just,
whenever you're talking fast, are you talking like 10 reps in 30 seconds?
no, it's usually like 5 reps. It's not, they'll even work down to like just like a couple reps and just blast them as fast as they can.
Okay.
And that's kind of like to train your muscles to keep that resistance and get that weight up, right? Correct.
And usually blow through like a sticking point. So most people have sticking points.
Gotcha.
Sometimes it might be maybe the middle of your bench press or something. They're trying to train that force off their chest and blast through. Because if you can, a lot of guys can get it off their chest, but they can't get it through the middle. They can finish, but they just can't get it through that middle point. If you can blast it off your chest fast as possible and build that momentum and blow through the middle, you can finish it.
So is that why the pause at the bottom of the bottom of the bench, they always want you to do that?
Yep, because you're completely motionless, and that alone usually takes a lot of amateurs out of their comfort spot because they're used to those touch and goes.
Yeah.
And that is way different than a completely static stop press kind of. So you do train for things like that too.
Are there different rule sets at different events that you go to?
I mean, each federation does have their kind of like nuances, their different rules here and there. But for the most part, most of them are, they still have the, press commands, the squat commands, things like that.
What is that? I don't know those commands.
So some federations, like, let's just say you're doing a squat, you'll take the bar out of the rack and you'll stand perfectly upright, and the judge will put his hand up and drop it and say squat. That's when you squat, you go ahead and go to depth, stand up, and then he'll say rack. It doesn't sound like very complicated, but if you squat before he says squat, or if you rack it before he says rack it, that's disqualified. So you could completely smash a PR and then rack the weight and be like, yeah, I didn't tell you to rack it. Doesn't count. So you have to watch things like that.
Has that ever happened to you?
Yeah. I've gotten red lighted because, so this particular federation had a rule about thumb loops on wrist wraps. So I had my thumb loop still on my finger whenever I was benching. So I followed all the commands: press, rack, red light. Like, what did I get red lighted for? He's like, take your thumb loop off next time. I was like,
nobody thought to tell you before you did it?
It was like, I knew it, but I was so hyped up and pumped just to get like on the platform and rock and roll.
Yeah.
I just, forgot about it.
So when you're stepping up to that rack, what are you doing to get pumped up for it? Are you just stone cold steel? You just run up and do it? I mean, what's going through your head to get?
I'm always
plates, man.
I'm always very quiet. Like, I'm always like very inside my head. There's a lot going on in there for me. I'm not a very loud person. But if you could have 1 million people talking to me and I don't even know what's going on, like, I'm just super focused. I get up there, lift, do my thing, and then off the platform.
Has that always been your tactic, is just to kind of be in your head about it, running through are you a more detailed approach, like that you have to do, you have a process that you go through inside
of your head? OCD. Yeah,
that's what I'm wondering. So like when you wake up on lift day, what does that routine look like leading up to getting on the rack?
It actually probably better off to ask my wife, because she knows it like better than I do. She knows that I don't talk to anyone. I get all my gear ready, and I go to the meet. I don't really talk to anyone unless I'm close friends with them. And I do my thing, and then it's very uninteractive for me. I'm very quiet.
Yeah.
And I've always been like a really humble person and never like a very loud, boisterous kind of person. So I'm just very, very in my head. And that's how I always was as a lifter.
And she's been with you from the beginning, right? So she kind of knows this.
Yep.
Where I know when I would go into competitions for Taekwondo, like my wife would be like, "What's wrong with you?" I'm like, "Well, it's don't worry. I just got a lot of stuff playing on in my head right now."
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, it's difficult to explain, but like she was there from the beginning. So from when I was just doing it for fun to more of a serious kind of thing, and she's seen that transitions, and she knows how serious things are, and she pretty much knows not to really even try to talk to me.
I mean, how important is that support system too? I mean, let's jump on that. I mean, explain it to me. I know on my end, I couldn't do what I do without having my ride or die. So tell me about that experience. Was it always hunky dory?
That's pretty much it in a nutshell. It's not always hunky dory. If she's out right now, she would be on here explaining. Yeah, her and I are lucky we really never ever fight. And it's great. We have discussions, but to not have her as like a support system, you said it, like I really don't think I could have done everything that I've done. There's just so much sideline BS that needs to be taken care of in my head. Like when I get in my own head, I'm my own worst enemy when I'm trying to think of things.
Yeah. So what are your snags inside of your head? What are you feeling inside of there that's like holds you back? But then whenever you talk to her about it, it's like, hey man, this is all good now.
So like whenever I was competing in powerlifting, I would regularly have nightmares that I would be in the warm-up room and I couldn't even warm up with the bar.
Okay.
So like I was to the point that I was almost seeing like sports psychologists to get this stuff like out of my head, because I was basically just punking myself out. And meanwhile, I have like people in the gym on the sidelines telling me like, you're super strong, man. But I think the more smoke that got kind of blown up my butt, the worse it was. Like, don't tell me that I'm good. Don't tell me that I'm strong. Just like, let me alone. Let me do my thing. Almost the more praise that I got, it was like the worse it got.
How about that? So that didn't boost your confidence. That actually diminished it.
Yep.
So what do you do to gain the confidence other than to continuously do the act? Because that's kind of that reaffirmation that we talk about here. How do you do it? How do you gain that confidence then?
It was really just going through the meet and just showing myself that, yeah, you were a moron thinking like the way you were, but just wait until the next meet and you're going to think the same thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it's a cycle in a way, but I know that it's coming now. So like I was saying, like the confidence didn't come from people around me affirming that I was strong. The confidence only came from me doing the thing.
Is it because you're so humble, that you were just like, look, I don't need all that frills and stuff. I don't need you telling me how good I look or how strong I am. I don't need that.
I think like a combination of that combined with when people are, I think, complimenting you, they're also setting up expectations. So like if I were to go to a meet and just completely bomb, I have all these people looking at me like, what the hell, man? Like, we expected you to do way better. So I kind of just would go into meets or even my shows as like, I'm the best that I think I can be right now, and I'm going to do the best that I can, but I don't want expectations from all these other people. I don't know if it really makes sense. I know a lot of people thrive on compliments, like especially in the age of social media. Like they want that attention. And me, I'm like, thanks thank you. I appreciate it. But at the same time, I'm like, geez, like I got a lot of expectation built now.
Yeah. Now, whenever you gained that coach, you know, kind of halfway through that powerlifting career, did you talk to him about some of this stuff that was going on?
Yeah, and actually he helped me out quite a bit with it because he is super cocky. He is completely opposite.
Okay.
So he kind of helped me find my spot in the middle and be a lot more confident with myself, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, it totally makes sense. It's interesting that you would be okay with it coming from your coach, but
Mm-hmm.
not from the other folks in the gym, kind of telling you the same message.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but he was the person that he was super cocky, but he talked the talk, but he walked it. You know,
Okay.
he would go in and like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And how many guys go in and say, yeah, I'm going to do this, and they
All
don't?
of them. Yeah. They all
He
say
would go
they're gonna
in,
do it.
he would do it, and then some. And I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
okay.
that's unbelievable, man. So whenever you go through powerlifting, you know, what was the injury that really said to you, "Hey, I got to be done with this"?
The scariest one was I had a back injury, deadlifting. Can't remember exactly what. Oh, facet. I had a bad facet injury. Basically put me in a wheelchair for a few days. That really scared me.
What is a facet injury?
I think the facets they're just small things in between your vertebrae.
Okay.
And basically, I was deadlifting, and it pretty much felt like somebody smacked me in the back with a baseball bat. I dropped to my knees.
Ooh.
I drove myself to the hospital, but by the time I got to the hospital, it was so inflamed I couldn't get out of my car.
Yeah.
So they had to come get me, put me in a wheelchair, and I rehabbed that for months.
So were you lifting on your own that day?
Yep, by myself.
In a rack, though.
Yep. Yeah, I was deadlifting, and I think I had some like reverse bands on, so I had some bands that were pulling weight off,
Uh-huh.
but it was like 750, something like that, and it just like snapped.
Yeah. I've noticed that too. You lift by yourself a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Do you recommend that for most?
Nope.
Yeah. I knew a guy in high school that you know, high school parties, we're all drinking, everybody gets the bro hugs going on and be like, yeah, I can lift this. No, I bet you I can lift more than you. And then we get on the bench and the guy drops the weight on his chest and died.
Yep.
So it's like, I see you lifting by yourself and I'm like, is he going to have somebody spot him?
Generally,
is somebody running that camera, please?
If I'm at home, like, so I have a rogue rack that I lift out of at home that does have spotter pins. If I'm going heavy, I'll definitely set the spotter pins up. But I kind of grew up almost sort of lifting by myself in a way, so I'm sort of used to it, but I got stuck benching in the last house that I lived in the garage there. It got stuck on my belt. I couldn't roll it off. You know, I was trying to roll it off. Broke a bunch of blood vessels all over my chest and stomach. That was scary. I've had numerous times where I had to drop weight off my back. You know, it's definitely not a smart thing to do. If you have a good crew that you can trust, yeah, that's probably ideally what you want to do, especially if you're powerlifting and using some significant weight.
Right. So you're in a wheelchair for a couple days.
Yeah.
You go from powerlifting to in a wheelchair.
Yep.
Now, are your wife was with you then too?
Yep.
Man.
She's just like, she's that backbone that I didn't feel like I had at that point, you know, because I got super depressed because I wasn't even able to lift for like the next 3 months at all.
So you had to take some significant time off then?
Yep, I had to rehab that for a while. Fortunately, my chiropractor is also, he was a powerlifter, 165 class. So, you know, he's helping me rehab that.
Mm-hmm. Dang.
So,
yeah, I couldn't imagine just
definitely
being
got the circle.
Yeah.
You definitely, you definitely got the circle around you. When that became diminished, now you said there were several injuries.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that was probably the one that really put you down to your bottom, or you just quickly forgot about it, and then
I totally forgot about that one. I kept going. I kept going.
That was a fluke, right?
Yeah. I strained 2 adductors very, very badly, partially tore one in separate meet preps. And those are actually what, those were pretty much what broke the camel's back, because I was far enough in, getting little injuries here and there. And then those both took me out of work for months and months. And I can't not make money.
Mm-hmm.
So that really did it for me.
How old are you during this time? Because your body starts to break down over time. You know,
I think I quit powerlifting around, I want to say 34, 35.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really where, and that was the point where I was really pushing a lot of weight. Like my squat was over 7 at that point. I was working towards an 800-pound deadlift, and my bench was close to 500. So there's at 200 pounds. I mean, there's no, like you were talking about the frame, the structure, the bones. Maybe that's just like my limit, you know?
Yeah.
Genetically.
That's impressive that you can meet your limit, though. We all try to get there.
Yeah, and maybe I did or maybe I didn't, but
yeah, no, it certainly felt like that. And then you transition after those injuries. Did you take some time off to figure out life again?
Yeah, it took some like searching, because like powerlifting was my life for a while. Even early on, whenever I was even coming into powerlifting, I had like a bad sort of medical condition. My lungs spontaneously collapsed. And
wow.
Yeah, that was earlier on when I was kind of like starting to come up, and I had some multiple surgeries. They failed here and there. And the surgeon told me that he's like, you're never going to lay on a bench again. He's like, you're not going to be in the gym just due to the intra-abdominal pressure you're going to put on your lungs. You can't do that.
Were they afraid it was going to collapse again because of that pressure?
Yep.
What was the health condition? Does it have a name?
They don't really know. It's called a spontaneous pneumothorax. So it typically happens in people that have big growth spurts or that smoke. And I've never drank, smoked, done any drugs like in my life. And I was like, well, I don't smoke, you know?
Yeah.
And he's like, it just randomly happens with some people. They have these certain spots on their lungs that become weak. And I tell you what, that was probably the most depressing point in my life, because I was in the hospital for over 30 days at one point.
Oh my God.
Surgery after surgery after surgery. And then to hear him come in and say, you're never going to the gym again. That was, honestly, that was probably the worst thing that's ever happened to me, like personally.
So obviously that did not happen. I mean, you went back into the gym, and but you had to slowly find a different passion, a different motivation to try to do something, right?
Yeah, I mean, like I went back into the gym about 6 months later after that happened, laid down on a bench and started with an empty bar, and that was that. But then I did come into powerlifting after that, and you know, we were talking about the confidence earlier, being super scared of that lung collapsing again.
Yeah.
It's very painful, and I don't want to be in the hospital for a month again. So to test those waters was like, I don't know. So I pushed it and pushed it and pushed it, and everything just felt great, and I got pretty fairly strong, you know, and that was that. But
so when did the lung collapse happen?
That was, I want to say early 2000s. So I was working into my first meet. This was before my first meet and everything.
Holy cow.
I was super like into powerlifting at that point.
Right.
And just going to the gym, and, you know, I was a single guy and building muscle, and it was just the best. Like the gym was like my life,
Mm-hmm.
So to hear that was just, I don't know, it was pretty rough.
I couldn't even imagine. I couldn't imagine. It's your whole entire life being taken away from you.
Right.
You got to rediscover, and I could totally understand why. I mean, in the back of your head, that's always got to be there. So the confidence that you said, all these people telling you that, hey, you're strong, you're this, but in the back of your head, it's always like, yeah, I'm strong, but I got this stupid lung.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. That's basically it too.
Yeah.
It's like I have like less capacity to
So for
create
cardio,
oxygen.
yeah. So for cardio, because you have to pose and all that
Mhm.
stuff. So how significant of a hurdle is that for the posing and the cardiovascular system?
So I lost about a third of the capacity of my right lung. So like you can technically live on one lung, but to have two fully functioning lungs is probably like a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, that's probably it's optimal.
Yeah, it would be optimal, but doing with what I got. So yeah, I pretty much cardio kind of sucks for me a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but it is what it is.
Have you gotten that lung checked since then?
Yeah, I've had numerous like X-rays, and I'd had pneumonia and stuff before. So anytime they take X-rays, they could see what's going on with your lung there.
Mm-hmm.
And every time it always freaks the lady out because she could see like how messed up it is, and she's like, "What is going on with your lung?"
So
I'm
it's you still got issues, like it's a visible issue on your lung still.
Yep, you can see it on the X-ray. You can see like where everything's kind of like, because they basically run a line of like surgical staples and Gore-Tex across the top of the lung. So it, because the top part was the weak part.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
So something that I never realized was they use Gore-Tex inside your body. My buddy had heart surgery a couple months ago, and they put Gore-Tex in his heart, and I'm like, what? But yeah, that's totally
Gore-Tex
real.
is some good stuff.
Yeah, man,
So,
it's not just for protecting your boots.
that was actually the reason the first surgery failed was they had taken the product with the Gore-Tex off the market. So my surgeon came back and he's like, they just put the Gore-Tex product back on the market. He's like, we're using that this time. I'm like, Gore-Tex?
Going back
into my Rocky boots.
He's like, yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, that's exactly what I said too, Joe. Whenever I heard that they use Gore-Tex, I'm like, wait, the same type of Gore-Tex? Yes, the same type of Gore-Tex.
I'm like, cool, man. Go ahead. I'm all about it.
Yeah, I'm in. Get me back on the bench.
Yep.
Man. So whenever you're in the hospital, is it just trying to recover, that you're just healing? Or are you actually doing breathing exercises, things like that? Do you do breathing exercises now?
I was basically strapped to a wall on a suction device because they're as when you have a hole in your lung, you're a sealed system. So you're essentially putting air into your sealed system. So that'll put a ton of pressure on other organs. So they're suctioning air out of my system. So if you got to go to the bathroom, you got to call a nurse. They'll disconnect you. I'm on a morphine drip, like for 25 days. Like I told you, I never
don't take
drank
drugs
a day in my life. Never drank, never smoked. I hardly even took Tylenol when I had headaches. Coming off a morphine drip for 25 days. Holy cow, I got so sick.
Yeah, I would bet you had withdrawals, I bet.
Oh yeah, it was horrible. Like major sweats, like super upset stomach. Like morphine is no joke. That stuff's crazy.
And you decide that it's still your passion to powerlift.
Yep.
Despite all of that.
Yep. Because like we were talking about the confidence thing before, like I said, I was just super afraid, and to really demonstrate that I could do the thing, remove that fear. So, I mean, I was still cautious, obviously. I didn't go in and just throw 315 on the bench and was like, yep, let's go.
Of course.
But just work my way up, and that was it, man. I just wanted to prove that surgeon wrong, and I guess I did. So.
I would say. Yeah, you had a healthy career, 10 years then? In powerlifting.
Yeah. I competed for 10 years, yeah.
And now you've transitioned into a different chapter of your life where you seem to be more of a like model almost.
Yeah, I definitely kind of dig. So back to high school, I was super self-conscious. I was just total nerd. Had super long hair, just like I said, into punk metal. I'm still into punk and metal. I'm still the same dude,
Right, yeah.
but I
With less
think
hair.
thanks.
I gotta say, much better hair now.
Yes. I think I like using the physical aspect, and if I could get people on board with the physical things and getting healthy, that you can kind of protrude and like exude that
Yeah.
kind of beauty that you have, maybe.
Yeah. So, and I guess I'm trying to draw the correlation between your passion to want to help other people find what you found through powerlifting.
Yeah.
Because you do put out so much content, you put out a lot of positivity. You are outspoken on some aspects, and you're true to your word. You know, where does that come from, and what is the desire to put that content? I know that you said about people before putting out content and ripping people off. Some people don't care. Like most of the population is like, yeah, people get ripped off, they're dumb.
Yep.
You took it on yourself to help those folks. Why is that?
That's really just what it is. I think social media can be a cesspool of myths and disinformation, and I think, you know, in the beginning, a lot of us spin our wheels on trying to figure out a lot of this fitness stuff, this nutrition, things like that, and it's really not as difficult as it needs to be. You have so many supplement companies putting out so much garbage, and then all these methods and things. Like, it doesn't need to be that hard. Like, just do these things. You just need a stimulation for muscle, and you need proper nutrition, and it just doesn't need to be that hard. And I guess if I can just do a tiny little bit and help anyone that's just starting out, or even, you know, intermediate or advanced, like, we're all seeking new information. No matter what, I'm always open to new information. I think that's just really where I want to go.
Yeah.
So, but a lot of people, what starts to get discouraging in any community or any kind of training, people want it and they want it now.
Right.
So they don't want to work at anything. They just want to say, hey, look, give it to me. I want to lift 350. I want to just go and do this. And these companies are preying on these types of people.
Yep.
Because they want that fast money.
I think that's just the way that it is right now. And I mean, I can even look at that on my side of like my full-time job with UPS. I constantly get complaints like, where's my stuff? You know, you order something from, you know, we're in Pennsylvania here, and you want it from like Alaska right now. Yeah. Like, let's go back 15 years. Those expectations would have been, you know, okay, I'll get it in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You know, and you're exactly right. That's, everybody wants everything right now. And so with Doughnuts and Deadlifts, I took over their page yesterday and I opened it up to some questions. And a lot of questions kind of go to that point where they want things right now: fat loss, muscle gain, PRs, things like that. And I constantly reinforce that this is not a race. Like, it takes time. You're dealing with a human body, something that doesn't really like change that much. And it kind of just needs time.
Especially, it probably took you 35, 40 years to get this blob of a body that you have now, you know, and you think it's going to be gone in a month, you know? Right. Like, you really tried really hard to trash yourself, and it's not just going to go like that.
Yeah. And I tell people all the time, as much as they don't want to hear it, that I'm sorry, but you didn't get fat overnight. It's going to take a while to get lean. So it works just the same. So
I got a question that came in. What would you recommend for a supplement, if anything? Any
supplement? I'm just gonna have to. And this is so boring. And just,
I know it is, and I didn't want to get to here, but we do have the question. You probably get asked this 100 times a day, but
nobody wants to hear it. But genuinely a good multivitamin is the way to go. And then if I were to say a close second, is just going to be a solid protein powder. That's
There you
really,
go.
and it's so boring. It's nothing that anybody wants to hear, but a genuinely good multivitamin, if you're deficient in minerals and vitamins,
You're all good, Brad. Yeah, and a hell of a work ethic. That's the supplement. I mean, it's a work ethic.
it's literally like
That's the only way you're gonna get to be where you are.
the big things you can't really buy over the counter unless we're talking about like food, like for your diet.
Mm-hmm.
But like, yeah, a genuine work ethic, something you can't buy. Intensity, can't buy it.
Mm-mm.
You know, it's just,
Have you ever gone down a rabbit hole on a diet where you thought was like amazing
yeah,
that you got the best results on?
yeah. Generally, I mean, I'll do like a carb cycling type diet right now when I'm cutting. So I'll get my carbs as low as maybe 30 or 40 grams for a couple days.
Okay.
And then I'll have a huge refeed where I'll maybe refeed 600 or 700 grams of carbs, refill back up, and then go about my way again for 30 or 40 grams again for the next 3 or 4 days.
Okay. So you almost put them in reserve and you feed off of that through the week.
Yep.
And then just kind of,
Yep.
I guess, supplement carbs throughout
Yep.
the week. That's interesting. Yeah. That's
Very
an
small
interesting
amounts
way.
of carbs. It's not keto, but
Yeah.
it's basically just carb cycling in a sense. Protein is super, super high because the carbs aren't there. Carbs are protein sparing. So if you don't have those carbs there, you have a tendency to kind of start feeding off of that protein. So I increase the protein and basically just carb cycle. That's when I'm trying to get really lean. Now, like when it's off season, it's carbs all day, every day.
Yeah. So when you're talking carbs, we talking pizza, we talking bagels, anything?
So I kind of have an 80-20 rule with myself. So where I keep 80% of everything clean and 20% dirty. So like, yeah, there's some donuts and cookies sitting around here.
Yep.
There'll be pizza nights. I'll have a cheat meal once a week. And then, like I said, 20% of the stuff that I have during the day, it's total garbage.
Yeah.
But the rest of the 80% is all, you know, if it's carbs, we're talking like oatmeal, oats, potatoes, things like that.
Okay. Hey, now cheat meals, is that more for your mental health, or is it just like it's just the term of a cheat meal?
It's just to feel good. It's something that, because I still technically track all my calories and things like that, even in the off season. That's something that I don't know. I don't want to get everybody into tracking because it can like really mess with your head a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's something that I don't mind doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I do. But with cheat meals and stuff, it's just something that you don't even worry about tracking. You go out and have a good time with, you know, your wife or whatever, and you just pound food.
Yeah.
So some of your clients that you work with, because you do personal training as well.
Yep.
You know, I'm sure that question comes up. How do I eat? Or you know, I have an unhealthy relationship with food because of all of this. What are some of the approaches that you use with them to overcome those unhealthy relationships with food?
So every client's different. So I pretty much basically work off of their personality. So if I can kind of sense that they have an unhealthy relationship with food, I try to work with that. If somebody is in complete control, then we can throw some more cheats in there. We can be a little bit more technical. But for the people that have unhealthy relationships with food, I try to keep things as simple as possible.
Okay.
Keeping things as simple as possible makes them think a lot less about what they're doing, so that they stress a lot less. And stress tends to be a huge part of why people tend to overeat and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I could totally get that.
Yeah, that stress eating is a thing. And I know, you know, I know some people that's just how they deal with things.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
look,
a
I'm having a
thing.
tough day. Right.
Yeah. So, you know, like I said, you really kind of have to analyze each individual client because everybody's so different, and then sort of figure out what's going to work best for them, because the diet that's going to work best for them is the one that they can stick to. That's really the way that it works.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that a lot of people don't really understand when it comes to coaching or doing anything. It's a relationship that you build with your students. And that's something that we talked a couple of times on the podcast. And it's people think that, oh, well, they can watch videos or they can do those fast track things, but they're not going to get that relationship for someone that may actually care about them and what they're doing to themselves.
Right.
You know, and that's the difference between doing it by yourself and having somebody that's coaching you.
Right.
You know?
You have that outside perspective view from a coach, because sometimes when you look at yourself, you have some weird biased views and you're not exactly your best coach. But yeah, I have some clients that I've had for years. Like, I know what they're doing with their grandparents this weekend. I know what they're doing, you know, everything that's going on. And all that additional information helps me coach them better because I know them. So if that makes any sense.
It makes total sense. So we do have a lot of coaches that come on the podcast, and your approach is very similar in terms of it's not about the nuts and bolts of the program.
Mm-hmm.
It is about the relationship and understanding their personal goals and their personal life to adapt what you know as a professional to help them meet their goals where they're at right now.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Cause I mean, like if you take a client that wants to lose weight, we all know that you have to be in a caloric deficit, basically. Okay. That's your nuts and bolts. But all of us have had teachers, professors that just know how to talk to you, to educate you, to how to learn. So if you can do that with a client, that's it.
Yeah. That's why I love it's donuts and dumbbells, right?
Donuts and deadlifts. Yep.
Donuts and deadlifts. Sorry. I love that way of, you know, hey, look, we're talking real life.
Yep.
You know, who doesn't love donuts?
Yep.
And I also follow one of your friends. Was it Krispy Kreme?
Oh yeah.
She is awesome.
Yeah.
So she just from what I see on her lives and her videos, she seems like she's a very humble person as well. And like she has a really knack of just talking true to people.
Yep.
And people don't look like, if they look at you on stage and they look at your physique and they're like, oh, this dude's, you know, he's a musclehead, he's a jerk, he's an asshole, you know. But just watching her like talk true and just talking to you right now, like people really have no idea till they actually have a conversation with you. I think it's great.
A lot of our crew is like that at Donuts and Deadlifts. Krispy Kreme's is, I mean, she's an amazing person. And that's kind of like what our whole sort of team is built around, is like personality. And yeah, she's an amazing person. And like you said, you get that kind of view of people where like a lot of us are like heavily tattooed or something like that, or just muscle and lifting. And yeah, you really have to dig in. It's definitely more than, you know, get past the cover of the book, man.
Yeah.
It's hard for people to peel back an onion.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
They get this opinion about you just based on your looks. And yeah.
And I get it. I get it, because I think we all do it, but at the same time, like, talk to somebody.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look at me. Okay, so I'm also a firearms instructor, right? Mm-hmm. And I teach Krav, but people don't look at me and be like, "Who are you teaching fire?" Like, you for one, I don't portray or show like the Northwest Pennsylvania like firearms instructor guy.
Right.
You know, I don't look like that person, and that's for some of the older population that may have been shooting cans in their backyard for years. You know, just seeing me, and I'm like, oh, you know, it's your trigger pull. You know, your front sight picture, sight alignment, and they're just like looking at me like, who the hell are you?
Right.
You know. And it's real hard to get by, but, you know, I just smile big and just say, hey, bear with me for a minute and we'll see what happens.
See, I know with me, like I tend to be the guy that looks at people outside the box. Like I really, I mean, trying to, I guess, stereotype somebody, I'm going to end up putting myself in a position where I'm probably not picking the best coach. Because like, if you look at bodybuilding coaches, just because those dudes have muscle doesn't mean they have brains.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you got big muscles, but maybe somebody told him what to do. And that's the problem with coaching and like the way that I go about coaching. So I have a macro approach where I basically let them pick the food. So I'm not structuring them and pigeonholing them into certain foods that they have to eat. I want you to hit these numbers. So that forces them to look at nutrition labels and pick their foods accordingly to how they have to eat. That's going to educate them. I'd rather teach them what to eat than tell them what to eat, if that makes sense. So, I mean, looking at a coach and saying, oh, well, he looks great. Obviously, he's a great coach. That just definitely doesn't work because there's a lot of really, really good coaches that don't have any muscle.
Yeah.
So, yeah, stereotyping is just a bad move.
Yeah. So, and I know Ron's probably going to hit on this pretty soon, but we always like to look at what made you who you are, of what brought you to this certain situation. Like, how did this happen? Like, what was your background? What was your livelihood when you were growing up? Like, who were the people that made you the motivated person that you are now?
To be honest, it's kind of a hard question to ask. I grew up really, really poor. So I had to really work. I knew I had to work hard to get things that I wasn't going to be handed anything. So I think that maybe started the mentality, like, you got to work for this, man. Like, you can't just be handed. And especially when it comes to physical things, like with the body, with strength, growing muscle, you have to work for it. I don't care if you're even genetically gifted, you still have to work. So I think maybe that started there. But as I said, like earlier, honestly, it was my brother, man. Like, I seen him go into the gym and I'm like, dude's got traps. Like, what's going on here? So I seen him at the pool, like, cause he had been living with his girlfriend. I hadn't seen him for maybe 6 months.
Uh-huh.
And we went to the pool. And I'm like, it's got 20 pounds on me now.
Yeah.
I'm like, no. Get me some creatine and some dumbbells.
And I'm in.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. Just seeing him, and he was really, really into it, and seeing how happy it made him and the progress that he was making. I was like, man, I kind of want to be part of that.
So you and your brother, you tight?
Yeah, we're pretty tight. Yeah, I mean, we both got families and stuff now, and things happen.
Of course. So, but growing up though, he's your younger brother,
Mhm.
and then it's an interesting stance though that your younger brother motivated you as the older brother to go into that. It's usually the other way around.
Yeah, because I was doing nothing, man. I was just like hanging out with guys and like going out, and I'm like, it's kind of whatever. But I was always a person that like focused on something and wanted to be better at it, regardless of what it was. And I didn't have anything that I was really focusing on, and I'm like, man, what's he doing? So I started lifting with him, and our bond got even tighter and tighter.
Yeah, I could only imagine. I was going to ask you that if you guys live together. Do you still live together, or do you live so far apart now? That...
I wish. He's got 5 kids now.
Okay.
He's really, really busy, and like that's like one of the things. If I could have 3 things, that would be one of them. Would be to be able to like smash weights with him again.
Yeah.
But it's not happening.
Gotcha.
Life happens,
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it sure does.
And then, okay, so aside from it sounds like the competitiveness between you and your brother really motivated you. But now that you're in a different circle and you're around like-minded people, like I know that we've talked about this with me and Ron is in the self-defense world. Now we have totally different mindset. Yep. That is our nucleus. So now you with your crew, you guys are all in the same thing and you want the same goals. You want to present the same things. And that's really what's keeping you going now, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I have a good friend, Ryan. He's a IFBB pro physique competitor. Honestly, guys, it's not even to talk down on amateurs or anything like that. For a while, there was some really bad kind of just vibes going on at a certain level. And I think once you get to a certain point and you're around guys that are at pro level, regardless, I think of what there's still going to be drama. There's still going to be things like that. But I think a lot of the kind of the crap talking seems to go away, and people are a lot more focused, like goal focused on things. So I know being around, like you said, like-minded guys, that just almost took me to the next level, to where it's like, man, we're really super focused on this. And that's what we talk about. We don't talk about garbage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
That was something that I was listening to Gary Vee last night about. You familiar with Gary Vaynerchuk?
no, huh?
So he's he's kind of like the entrepreneur guru. He's got a lot of good content out there as far as like leadership, business. His big thing, just like you were talking about, is being patient.
Yeah.
Just because you want it now, you could do that thing for 5 years and still have 70 more years in your life.
Right.
But something that he was talking about last night kind of spoke to what you were saying was, shit, I just lost it. What were we just talking about?
We're just talking about being around like good people.
Yeah.
Like,
So he was saying like,
higher level.
he had an interview with one of it was, I believe it was a kid, and he was living under his parents' roof, and they're really negative to him.
Mm-hmm.
But Gary was like, well, listen, if you're going to stay under that roof, you got to input positivity somehow into you.
Yep.
So put your headphones in, listen to positivity 24/7, digest that type of content more than what that negativity is. And
Yep.
you can start creating those positive mindset
Yeah,
routines.
absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. And I think, I'm not like a spiritual person or anything, but I think your body responds to certain stressors and certain things, environments, things like that. And when you're constantly in a positive state, you're constantly growing. It may not be physically, but I think mentally, and you're putting yourself in a position where you're able to constantly progress forward. So, I mean, like I said, with pros, there's always going to be some drama here and there. That's a human thing.
Uh-huh.
But I think there's just a lot less of it. There's a lot less distraction and a lot more focus.
No, it makes total sense. And I think it makes total sense too, that you can exponentially grow when you are around like-minded people.
Absolutely.
That could go in the negative side too. If you're around a bunch of people that are drinking all day, you're going to drink all day.
Oh yeah.
And that's just the reality of who we are as human beings.
Absolutely.
So if you can recognize that, just like you had, and get around people that are like-minded, and just for those listening and those watching, I mean, seek out those types of individuals, seek out people that you would want to surround yourself with.
Sure.
And to achieve your goals.
Yeah, it's definitely the old adage of, when your mom was like, hey, look, don't hang out with those kids. It's not the right type of kids. It was her telling you to do it. Of course, you hung out with them anyway,
right,
and got in trouble, Yeah. But somebody else she was looking out for you. And now us as adults, we're going to be reiterating the same thing.
Yep.
And we're just hoping that people would kind of like go by that, because we've seen the experiences and learn from our mistakes, as opposed to, trying to create them on your own.
Absolutely. I think those relationships are kind of like stepping stones, in a sense, where you're not just throwing the old relationships away, but you're continually stepping towards a new and better goal.
I like that. Yeah. Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting concept too. Whenever you think about that, we talk about it as seasonal friends. These
Mm-hmm.
people that come into your life and leave just as fast as they came in, but the profound effect that they have on your life,
yeah,
positive or negative, and they may not think about you ever again.
Yeah.
But I mean, who was somebody that did that to you?
Well, I mean, to be honest, I mean, the lifting weights and powerlifting, I lost a lot of friends because, like I said, high school and just out of high school, I was into BMX riding a lot, just riding my bike, punk, metal, all that stuff, and kind of just hanging out. And that group of friends is nothing like what I'm around now. It's completely different. Like the people that I was around before hated pretty much what I am now. So that kind of sucked, but I still wanted to be around those people because I liked those people for who they were as people, not for what they did.
Uh-huh.
So that was kind of a bummer. So I lost a lot of that. You know, those relationships you make in your teens and your early 20s, those are pretty significant. They can be. They
Yeah,
can.
absolutely. So you have to reinvent yourself almost.
Yeah. I was on my own for quite a bit. Like I said, I was kind of chasing my brother there for a little bit, and then you know, I did form bonds around the gym, and just as we were speaking about, you know, as you get better with something, you surround yourself with better and better people, and I think that's just how you kind of constantly build this your own little empire of, you know, success.
That doesn't always come so easily for people
No.
to constantly challenge themselves and to not be the smartest or strongest in the room.
Yep.
So for you to do that, even early on in your powerlifting career, has likely exponentially, you know, decreased the amount of time that it took you to get to your level.
I think whenever I became not so hesitant to talk to people that were better than me, I think that's what helped. So I regularly will get DMs from somebody that's like, oh, I seen you at such and such place, and I just didn't want to bother you or whatever. I don't care. Like, as long as I'm not mid-set on something, like, you can. Yeah. I'm not like some superstar. You just talk to me. And the thing is, like, I think whenever I stopped being afraid of asking people that were better than me about something that I wanted to know, I think that's when everything just opened up. I'm like, wow, he just talked to me. But then you look back and it's like, man, he's just a human being. Like,
that is something that I've actually had to overcome recently, is even to try and get guests on the podcast. Is like, to reach out to a guy like you, I never would have done it 6 months ago.
See, that blows my mind though.
And it is weird. It's a weird thing, because I look at the number of followers that you have and I'm like, man, and then I look at your
doing
Instagram.
well. Yeah,
like,
good.
So for me, it's one of those things where, just like you want to be at a certain level, and this person is at that level, and it's intimidating. You know, it's intimidating to say, but at the same time, just like you said, we're all just humans. We're all continuing to evolve and trying to figure this thing out.
Here's the thing. Whenever I was in high school and super, super like afraid to talk to people, especially girls, that got me nowhere. But what do you have to lose by asking somebody?
Exactly.
Something? What do you have to lose?
Exactly. The worst they're going to do is say no.
If anything, they're going to say no. And if they do anything beyond that, it's exposing them. They're just a dick.
So, and you didn't want to talk to them anyhow. So it's like the best of both worlds.
Right.
You don't have to waste any more time being nervous or anything. And you don't have to waste any more time thinking that they're not going to talk to you.
Exactly.
Yep.
So go talk to them.
Yep. Exactly. So that's great advice for anybody. And it's something that, you know, that I've had to overcome recently, and I'm pretty confident otherwise, you know, but this whole podcast thing for us, we've been doing it for going on a year now, but it's still something new. And it's intimidating because you see other guys out there just like having, you know, celebrities on and everything like that. And it's like, well, can that ever be you?
Of course.
And of course it can. And you just have to get over it. So I love that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Reinventing yourself and having that confidence to just be like, hey, this is how it is. And you just got to move on with it.
Absolutely.
I love that.
Yeah, it was also funny, like regarding to the podcast and having people come on, which I greatly appreciate you know, deciding to do that with us. When we first started this, we were talking to some people, and of course everybody was like, "Oh, I always wanted to start a podcast," and the analytical people was like, "No, I want to make sure I got a good product." Yeah. And me and Ron was like, "Hey, we're just going to put out a shitty product to see what happens."
Yeah, for like 15 episodes, our mics were backwards. Like, it's like, I don't know. You learn. You got to talk to, just like you did. You sought the advice of people who have been doing it. people who know what they're doing, and
It can
be humble enough to say, I don't know. Can you
just
help
those
me?
conversations, those simple conversations can knock years out of spinning your wheels.
Yeah.
Just a simple conversation. But the other thing when it comes to podcasts, I mean, I think personally with me, when it comes to podcasts, it just comes down to personalities. It's like, man, would I just like sitting around with these dudes and just chatting? Like,
That's it.
Yeah.
that's really, I mean, especially in a time like now when there's a ton of people at home, they have the ability to discover new podcasts and things like that. I think it's great.
Yeah. Like I said, I appreciate you coming on, man. It's been a pleasure. I hope we can do this again. Thank you for
Absolutely.
opening up your life to us. Super positive. Is there any closings that you want to talk about? Anything that you wanted to discuss? I'm happy to stay on. I just wanted to.
Oh, no, I appreciate you having me on. If anything, in closing, I would just like to say, kind of just what we were talking about. Don't be afraid to approach people. Don't be afraid to try new things. And don't be afraid to go out of your comfort zone. Like discovering all these things, that's all I did to get to where I am currently, and I'm still doing it to progress further. So don't be afraid.
Yeah, that's fantastic, man. So where can the listeners find you?
I'm basically just on Instagram. It's Joe. There's 3 underscores. It's kind of weird. It's Joe ___ Steele. That's me on Instagram.
Yeah, absolutely. And if they wanted to get some donut and deadlift swag,
yep, you can just go to Doughnuts and Deadlifts on Instagram. They have a web page. There's there. Yeah, definitely pick up some stuff. It's a fantastic brand, super inclusive brand. We love everybody. Just a fantastic crew of people.
awesome, Joe. Thank you so much for coming on. Aaron, anything that you want to close out with today?
No, thanks. Hey, are you gonna get like a donut type name? I mean,
maybe I should get some type of donut like comic character name. I don't know. I'm thinking about it.
There you go. Some character.
Like I said, Krispy Kreme got that market cornered. Like
she's
pretty
got
good.
it.
Nailed it. All right, guys. Hey, enjoy your Mother's Day.
You too.
Love you guys, and everybody out there, enjoy the journey. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Yep. Thank you.